Hello everybody, this is Stephen Elson, this is MMA Latest, and this is the preview for UFC 201. A card that's not getting a lot of love at the moment, sandwiched in between the monumentally epic 200 and the very, very exciting, unbelievable card really for 202. Today I am joined by Derek, Nicole and Jordan of MMA Latest, and we're going to talk about all the key points coming up in UFC 201. Now, the first question that I've got for everybody this morning is UFC 201 pay-per-view worthy, and is it suffering being in the shadow of UFC 200? Jordan, I'm going to kick it off for you. What do you reckon, mate?
It's kind of everything you just said. You kind of answered the question, I think. It's not worthy of a pay-per-view. At one point, you could argue that it was, but the loss of Demetrius Johnson as the co-main event title fight really takes it out of that status into more of a maybe a UFC on Fox Sports 1 type of scenario, a fight night, if you will. But I mean, you've got, just to back up my case here, why it's not worth a pay-per-view. You've got the third fight before the co-main event. You've got a guy who's 1-5 in his last 6, Jake Ellenberger. I mean, how is anyone going to get excited about a guy who probably should have been cut? Not only is he 1-5 in his last 6, he's 3-6 in his last 9. So this guy has 2 wins, I think, dating back to 2013. So not the best record when you're trying to really sell this. And then in that, your co-main event, you've got a woman fighting Carolina Kowalkiewicz, I think I'm saying that right, who's got 2 fights in the UFC. Neither of them were very exciting. They were both decisions, and neither of them over world beaters. One Heather Jo Clark and one Randa Marcos. So I'm not getting too excited about this. Tyron Woodley may be the least deserving title contender I can think of in this division. But I mean, it is what it is at this point. You have to play out what you're given. There's been some injuries, guys taken off the cards, but I if I wasn't so into the sport so deeply, I probably would not buy this card.
Nicole, pay-per-view worthy or not? Are we overlooking what could potentially be a fantastic night here?
I think it is pay-per-view worthy. I mean, after UFC 200, they crammed so many superstars on that card. Like, who was left to fill in for this one? Really, I think it's pretty good for what it is. I mean, it's going to be overshadowed by anything McGregor's on anyway. So at this point, I mean, for what it is, I think it's pretty good. I'm going to buy it.
There we go. Derek, are you going to settle this one way or another? What do you reckon?
I'm selling this as being pay-per-view worthy, and part of it's because of its placement. It comes on the heels of UFC 200, and it comes in right before another card, UFC 202, which is going to do major numbers as well. I think people, from a pocket standpoint, are going to stay away from this one just because they're going to spend on the UFC 202, and they've likely already spent on UFC 200. Just from people I talk to that normally buy pay-per-views, they are not going to be purchasing this card.
Yeah, just to agree with Derek here, think of it as a artisan sandwich where you get some really nice bread. You got some nice bread on bottom. You got some nice bread for the top. That's 200 and 202. And then you couldn't find any good ham in your fridge, so you just grabbed like some old crusty salami that's probably expired. You just threw it on the bread, and that's kind of what 201 is.
Oh, I think we're being a bit harsh on it here. But anyway, what is the fight to watch? I'm going to come straight back to you, Jordan. Fight to watch for 201. What should the people be really looking out for?
So there's a couple fights to watch. I think everyone's got their own, but the one I'm kind of looking forward to is the flyweight fight between Justin Scoggins and Ian McCall. McCall's a guy who's fought Demetrius Johnson very closely in the past. Actually, you could argue that he won one of those fights. I think it went to a draw, one of their first ones, but he's also older, so I don't know how much more he's got in the tank. If he's going to make another run, it has to start now. Scoggins is a guy who's very young, has looked really good. His last time out against another prospect, Ray Borg, Scoggins looked unbelievably good. Really needs challengers, and this could be an interesting fight, seeing where the flyweight division goes from here. So Scoggins versus McCall is the one I'm looking forward to.
Derek, what's your fight for the people to watch out for?
I think this one's an easy one. Outside of the main event, you're looking at Rose Namajunas versus Carolina Kowalkiewicz. And the reason why I say that is because it probably has title implications. Whoever wins that fight is going to get a title shot more than likely against Joanna Jędrzejczyk. Don't know when that title fight comes, but that's the one that I'm most looking forward to. I'm not necessarily saying it's going to be the best fight, but I do think it's the one that's most important on this card.
Now, if you look at the Fight Matrix rankings, and there's a score assigned to everybody's ranking, Joanna is probably one of the most dominant champions in the sport at the moment. Can you see either Rose or Kowalkiewicz actually taking anything from her? Derek?
No, I don't.
Yeah, I do.
Sorry,
I
to cut you off then, Nicole. That was actually just straight back at Derek then, sorry.
Yeah, actually, I do. And the reason why is because I think Joanna's faced a lot of girls who have not had the striking to keep up with Joanna. They've not, she's been able to unload on them and really open up on girls who are not quite at her level. I think Rose presents a different dynamic there, and she can compete on the level. I'm not saying she's a better striker than Joanna, but she at least poses a bit of a threat on the feet, enough to where she might be able to get it to the ground and force her quick sub game there.
Okay, Nicole, we'll go back to you on this one. So what's your fight to watch? And also, if you've got anything to throw in on that one that we was talking about there with Rose.
I think the fight to watch, it has to be the main event, because Robbie Lawler has won fight of the year past 2 years in a row. He's crazy. Every fight he's in is like the best fight. Tyron Woodley, although not the guy I would want to see him fight for this card, but I mean, that was his, no other choices. So, I mean, I think it's going to go the distance. I think it's going to be a technical fight by Robbie. I think he's going to kind of pick and choose what he's, I don't know. I think he's going to just do what he has to do to win the fight. But, I mean, every fight he's in is just a bloodbath. So that's why I'm picking that fight.
Okay, before you was going to chime in when we was talking about Joanna and Rose and Kowalkiewicz, what have you got to say on that?
I was going to say, I think whoever wins that fight will get the next title shot, but I don't think either of them can compete against Joanna. I think she's just a step above everybody in that division at this point.
Yeah, I'm prepared to be surprised on that one, but I think Joanna is possibly the most... It's between her and Demetrius, really, who's the most dominant champion in the UFC at the moment, and either of those, to be honest, they both look unbeatable at the moment. Now, my fight to watch was going to be Ross Pearson and Jorge Masvidal, and I spoke to Jordan before we went on the air, and I said, what's yours going to be? And he was about to pick the same one, so I'll let Jordan have that as well. But this is a fight for me that these are two guys that both come to bring it. They're going to look to stand and they're going to look to trade, and I think this has got a fight of the night written all over it. I can't wait to see that one, but as you said, the main event's going to be a wonderful contest. I think Woodley's been underrated by a lot of people. I think some of the wars that Lawler has had in his career are going to start to take an effect on him very soon, and I wouldn't be surprised to see the title change hands on this one. That being said, Robbie Lawler, if he does win, where does he sit on the pound-for-pound list? And Wonderboy versus Lawler, if that's the next fight, how does that go down? And I'm going to throw this straight to Derek.
You know what? I think as far as Robbie Lawler sitting on the pound-for-pound standing list, he's right where he needs to be. If you're gonna leave John Jones on there, he has to be behind John Jones. He's sitting at 4 right now. But if you're gonna take John Jones out, he's gonna sit right at 3. I don't think he's gonna really move above that. You can't put him above Dominic Cruz, because technically Dominic Cruz has not lost in a long, long time, and he's looked every bit as dominant as before he left. And Demetrius Johnson's right there ahead of him. So I don't see his spot moving much unless you're just gonna take John Jones out of those pound-for-pound rankings.
Fair enough, Nicole.
I agree totally. I think he's exactly where he needs to be on the list. Not that he's like not one of the top 3, but I think that even like you're saying, Joanna could potentially jump over him. She goes a couple more undefeated fights.
Easily. And if he does retain his belt, what do you see Wonderboy and Lawler's fight looking like? If it is Wonderboy.
I think it will be him next. I think Wonderboy will take it, probably like a kick to the head.
Jordan, what have you got to say?
A lot of things. I've been holding my tongue over here. So just real quick to hop back for 1 second to the Masvidal Pearson point that you made. That's going to be a great fight. I agree. That's probably going to be your fight of the night. Another really interesting thing about that is both of those guys have styles that are very poor in the judges' eyes. These guys lose split decisions like they're nothing. Yep. So they both have lost a lot of controversial decisions in the past. So if that one does go to the judges, it could be really interesting to see who they score it for, because they're both kind of counter strikers. They both like to box and stay in the pocket and then counter strike. So it's going to be really interesting. And another fun fact, those two guys might have some of the best boxing in the lightweight division, or I guess if they're fighting at welterweight at this point, but great boxing for MMA, so that's another reason that fight's going to be awesome. But as far as Robbie Lawler is concerned, I don't know if beating Tyron Woodley moves him anywhere on the pound for pound rankings list. I mean, he deserves to be where he is. He's got great wins over Rory McDonald and Carlos Condit in phenomenal fights. He's got good wins over the really good win over Johnny Hendricks. So I mean, I don't know that beating Woodley, a guy, like I said earlier, I don't even know how deserving he is of a title shot. Coming off wins of Dong Young Kim, who is always kind of been a gatekeeper in this division, and then a very close, bad performance against Kelvin Gastelum, a guy who's also kind of, it's hard to tell where he is. He goes out and he beats Hendricks, but then, he lost to Neil Magny, so it's where the hell's Gastelum fall in the rankings? So Tyron Woodley is a very, very good fighter, and stylistically it's an interesting fight, but I don't know if Lawler beating Woodley moves him any further up the rankings. So, I mean, he's a top 5 guy for sure. I don't know how you really order those at the top.
Completely fine. Wonderboy, though, talk to me on that one. Where's that going?
I think that's a really bad matchup for Robbie Lawler. I don't think I think Robbie does best when guys like to get in and engage with him. And we all have seen 5th round Robbie Lawler. Look at the Condit fight. Look at the fight against Rory McDonald and later rounds, and against Johnny Hendricks as well. He comes out with this vitriol and vigor that I don't know if he's going to be able to possess that if he's going to be chasing around Wonderboy for 5 rounds. Look what Wonderboy did to Rory McDonald, the guy who's a really cerebral, technical striker. Wonderboy was able to keep the distance, not really take any damage at all from Rory, and I think Rory is he's faster than Robbie. So I have a hard time seeing Robbie being able to make this his fight. He needs to make it an ugly fight, and Stephen Thompson is very rarely in an ugly fight.
No, and I agree. I think Wonderboy is potentially a superstar in the making for the UFC. Once he gets his hands on the belt, I can definitely see a real top-class leveler really putting him in some bad positions and probably grappling their way to a victory and grinding out a decision against him. But that's what they've got to do. They've got to put him in there and see if they can do that with him. At the moment, his takedown defense looks fantastic. He's able to get back up when he needs to get back up. And on the feet, he looks peerless. It looks like there's nobody that can come close to him in the welterweight division on the feet alone. So I can't wait to see that fight happen, should Lawler retain it. I think even should Lawler lose it, I think they'd actually probably give Lawler a bit of time off and let Wonderboy have that title shot if Woodley took it. Who knows? I think it's going to depend on how this fight goes this weekend. If it's a close decision, then the call, if it's a bad decision as well, the calls for a rematch will be definite. So we know that generally is the way that it goes, especially if the champion loses. So that's what we spoke about so far. Let's get into your predictions. We're going to come straight to you, Nicole. Let's start with the Ian McCall fight. Give us your predictions going through to the main event.
For that one, I have Scoggins. I think Scoggins going to pull the upset over McCall. Then I have Riviera, then Brown, Carolina, and Lawler.
Ooh, so you're going for an upset against Rose, or potential upset against Rose, I think that's the only one that really stands out. Jordan, what's yours?
Looking through, I'm taking Scoggins over McCall. I think that at this point, he's just the more complete striker, and I think where that fight is going to take place most of the time is going to be on the feet. We've seen McCall try to box guys that he probably shouldn't try to box, so if that happens, Scoggins has an advantage on the feet. I'll take Scoggins. I'm going to take Cisco Rivera over Eric Perez. I just think Perez's inactivity is going to be an issue. He's been out with injuries. Rivera, although he's only like 1-4 in his last 5, he's had some tough fights, tough losses, but he's been more active. So I'm going to go Rivera. Welterweight fight, I'm going Matt Brown over Jake Ellenberger. I don't think that one's going to be too close, honestly. I think Brown gets him down and probably TKOs him on the ground. Strawweight fight, I'm going Rose Namajunas, probably by decision, mostly because I've been pretty unimpressed with Karolina Kowalkiewicz. I think she's a pretty decent striker, but she's nowhere near the level of Joanna Jędrzejczyk. So I think Rose will probably beat her up, but then I'm excited to see that fight if that's the fight they make, Rose versus Joanna. And then in the title fight, I think Robbie's going to win this one. If he can keep it on the feet, he's got a decided advantage. Obviously, Woodley's going to be looking to get this one to the ground. It's where he makes his money. But so I'm going Lawler, Namajunas, Brown, Rivera, Scoggins.
Derek, have you got any surprises in there for us?
Probably not, but I'm going to go with Scoggins. I think the length is the biggest issue there for McCall. I think his varied striking ability poses a big threat to McCall. I think, just as Jordan said, the inactivity, Rivera takes this one over Perez. Matt Brown over Ellenberger, he's just looked a lot better than Ellenberger has in a run of over quite a while, if you really look at the record. Namajunas, I think that she's going to get a decision win, but I would not be surprised if she pulls off a submission here over the striking heavy Kowalkiewicz. And in the main event, I'm taking Lawler. I think that he is just miles better than Tyron Woodley, who, in my personal opinion, is a fringe top 10 guy. I don't think that he's really where he should be. He's not won an impressive fight yet. He's hung his hat on a leg kick stoppage on Carlos Condit. That's his claim to fame here, and I just really think that Lawler's gonna take him to work.
I've got to agree with. I think everyone's gone Lawler, haven't they? Did you go to Lawler, Nicole?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to break that tradition. But I'm just going to start from the bottom. I'm going to tick Uncle Creepy, actually. I'm going to say, screw you guys. I'm going with Uncle Creepy on this one. I'm going to go with Rivera for the obvious reasons. I'm going to go with Matt Brown. Again, it's almost obvious reasons. Ellenberger has not looked good. Ellenberger looks like the kind of guy that probably should have hung his hat up a while ago, to be honest. So Matt Brown takes this. Matt Brown's looked pretty good of late. I got to go with Thug Rose, and I'm hoping that it's going to be an early stoppage as well, just for the entertainment value. And talking of entertainment value, Robbie Lawler's going to bring it. Robbie Lawler is going to Robbie Lawler this fight, and I hope that he's managed to keep it standing, because I can actually see a decision, a 5-round grapple fest in Woodley's favour, and I hope it doesn't go to that, because that's going to be a really bad end to what could be some decent fights, although the names aren't there, like we said at the top of the show. So I'm going to pick Lawler. I'm going to say Lawler probably gets it inside the distance, and that wraps up my predictions. Listen, everybody, thank you for joining us. Please get your predictions in the comments below. Make sure you give all of these guys a follow on the different Twitter handles we threw up on the screen. Thank you for joining us once again. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and come back for MMA Latest. We've got daily MMA content coming out every single day. That's what daily means. And we'll see you very soon. Thanks for watching.